Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents The Dave Holly Hour. Brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, Excel Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire arts and entertainment conversations. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
Welcome, everyone. Spring has sprung here at Big D Entertainment. Spring means growth, and boy howdy are we growing. Lots of projects coming to fruition, many more just starting to bloom. And I tell you what, you talk about growth, you talk about getting new people on the show. Well, we have two new guests on the show today. Later on, author Christine Weavick talks about her passion for South Dakota cold cases that you'll find in her latest book, Someone Knows. In a few minutes, we'll learn how singer-songwriter Bubba Startz, pardon the pun, got started as a musician. But first, let's pop the cork on this bubbly little show.
Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day and your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party.
Whatever you're drinking, or whatever you're drinking it out of, might very well be determined by where and when you're listening. My choice, a Jasper Newton, Jack Daniels Diet Coke with lime. For you, whether it's a cup of coffee, glass of milk, bottle of water, mug of beer, cocktail, a glass of wine, or a flute of champagne, lift it high and toast it to catnaps. Yes, those wonderful opportunities to rest the eyes for a few minutes and then suddenly you wake up in a matter of, a few more minutes and feel refreshed. Cheers to you, catnaps. Speaking of cheers, which just happens to rhyme with beers, say cheers to a beer or your favorite cocktail at Chasers on West 12th Street and Ellis Road. Make sure you grab some food while you're at it. Join me on Monday nights for Dave Holly Hour Trivia starting at 7. This coming Monday's theme is Out Like a Lion. Honorable mention. What over the past week made Dave laugh, guffaw, chuckle, chortle, giggle, smile, or maybe even shed a tear of joy? Ooh, talk about a great string of shows. Last week, my love and I attended Late Night Boomin' on Thursday night, Glass Menagerie Friday night, and Sense and Sensibility Saturday evening. Tough to choose out of those amazing shows, which is how this week's honorable mention goes to what we attended Sunday afternoon. Head over heels at Dakota Wesleyan University. Far exceeded our expectations. Very funny show. It's running yet this weekend. If you get the chance, I highly recommend it. Later on, we talk South Dakota cold cases with Someone Knows author Christine Weavick. Coming up next, singer-songwriter Bubba Startz tells us about his recent released Triple Fine, as well as many music topics on the Dave Holly Hour. Step into a world where chance meets creativity, where the roll of the dice and the flip of a coin inspire breathtaking works of art. The art exhibit Luck continues this week at Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts in the Shriver Building, downtown Sioux Falls. From paintings that capture the essence of serendipity to photos that embody fortune's touch, Luck explores the mystical forces that shape our lives. Join us for an unforgettable journey through the realms of luck and destiny. This exhibit promises to ignite your imagination and leave you in awe. Join us during March from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Admissions free. Serendipity Studio located downtown Sioux Falls in the historic Shriver Building, 230 South Phillips Avenue on the second floor. Don't miss your chance to be inspired by luck.
Comedy magician and hypnotist Jesse Moffitt's right. He can't play the piano, but he can sure entertain crowds with his amazing magic and clever quips. His shows always make the participants the stars, especially when they've fallen asleep on stage. They've been hypnotized. Are you the party planner in your group? Then you owe it to your group to make the event magical, even if it puts you to sleep. Here's how.
For booking information, go to Jesse Moffitt Entertainment on Facebook. That's JESSEMOFFITT. Or call 605-929-0964.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics inside Oscar's Mini Storage. Bisque, studio time, painting parties, and finished items are available. Visit TJS Ceramic Studio in Sioux Falls today.
Once again, Dave Holly.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh, yes, you know what I'm going to say. It's always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire arts and entertainment. Always a pleasure to have a new guest on. And this man is on a roll. Where will it end? Because we already know where it starts. Bubba Startz. From Starts It Ends and Starts and a whole bunch of other stuff. We got to go through all this and figure it out, Bubba.
I hope you got some time today, Dave.
I do, yes. I set aside plenty for you.
Awesome.
Bubba Startz, musician from South Dakota, living in the big town of Tyndall.
I am.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Driven through there a couple of times.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice little town.
Yeah, it is. It's a good, comfy place.
Yeah.
But you are, in the meantime, hitting the road, and you are all over this state, and you are hitting the airwaves, and you're hitting the podcasts, and you might be the unofficial South Dakota king of social media right now.
I don't know if that's true yet. There's a lot of other guys that work a lot harder than me, but we're doing our best to work hard, and yeah, we got a little bit of radio play with this new release on both sides of the state. Good buddy Mitch The Stitch out in Rapid City with Hot 93.1 got us some play the week before the release, and our new song Triple Fine is out on the streaming waves now. And yeah, we've been able to talk on the news and here at Dakota News Now in Sioux Falls, and some of the radio stations, Corn Country, Q107 out in Mitchell, and yeah, just kind of accessing all of the resources that are available to, I mean, really anyone, but especially for musicians to get out and to be on the air is so important. And I'm so fortunate. We are all so fortunate to live in a small area where access to those is actually pretty easy, and it could use more. You know, I'm kind of putting these things out to all the rest of my friends too, because they need content. You know, Dakota News Now and all these places need new content.
Been on there a few times.
They want exciting stuff to talk about. So, but they don't have the time.
And they're good people down there too.
Exactly. Well, and they don't have the time to go find everyone. So you have to find them, right? They're doing their job. So once I kind of learned the ropes of that, right? The producers at Dakota News Now are great. On-air personalities are awesome. Bailey's been awesome the last 2 times I've been on there. So yeah, it's nice forming a relationship with them so that when you show up, it makes it easier than when you're on air because you're old friends. You know? Dave, we kind of come from, similar backgrounds. We're music people, right? So when we just met each other 5 minutes ago in person, right? It was a very easy conversation already, and excited. It was like, hey, we've got to stop and turn the reels on and make sure we're capturing this stuff, because it's always such a great conversation with music people. So,
and let's talk about the music itself. So Bubba Startz, how did you get started in music?
It's a family affair for me. I remember Grandma playing accordion at Christmas time and giving everyone the Christmas carols and sheet music, and we would all sing together in her living room. And I think that's my earliest memories. My dad's always played guitar, right? So he grew up in it. My uncle Bill grew up in it as well, right? He's always played guitar as long as I can remember. He's got a beautiful Gibson Dove from the 70s. Oh my goodness, Dave. Oh my goodness. Oh, what a pleasure. He let me play it one time. But so, yeah, guitar has always been around.
Right.
Me. And so when I started to play, when concert bands started in 5th grade, after we had moved from the Chicago area out to Deadwood, 5th grade, you start concert band, right? Trumpet was full, all the kind of fun instruments, wherever I got in on the drums. Was nice for me to build that rhythm, right? So I played concert band on the drums, all learning the bells, learning all the other stuff. I always sang though. I always loved
Right.
singing. It's always been a passion for me to sing out. I mean, memories of my grandpa's, his earliest memories of me, right, are me singing Grateful Dead tunes to him at, 2-3 years old, right? I was born in Tennessee, so Tennessee Jed was my, baby, won't you carry me as a 3-year-old. So I was hitting the even
Right,
higher
yeah.
register, right? And some of our best family memories, right, are music related. So that's where it all starts. And then when I was in 7th grade, I picked up the bass for jazz band and loved it. Had a great time, learned a lot in that year of playing. My band teacher also played the bass, Mick Dragoo, out there. I think he's still in the Lead Deadwood area and teaching possibly. So shout out to him for kind of embracing me. He already knew I was kind of a goofy personality from days of playing the drums, right? He was the band director and kind of gave me the bass and coached me along a little bit about, what it really meant to hold that space, So it was really cool to have that drum bass
And
level
guitar.
before I ever touched a guitar to play it was after I'd already played
Wow.
bass for a year and then got a guitar in 8th grade. And then it was kind of over because I could put the vocal, the way a voice and a guitar go together, there's something magic about it,
Yeah.
right? There's a reason that rock music is so popular and has been forever. And it's like, there's something about these two instruments, our voice and a guitar, that just makes something amazing, right? So yeah, once I kind of picked up and I learned to play on my dad's probably 1950s Kimberly off-brand, cheap guitar that had been in our family forever. It was a little 3/4 size, tiny little thing, but that's where I learned the first chords off my dad's 1950s, the same chord book he learned off of, right? Years before. So yeah, kind of cool to the foundation of my music career now is all built on coming from a musical family, right? It's all in that being just inundated with music, live music in the home. Well, I understand a lot of people don't get that. Campfire jams were just how we grew up. When we moved to Deadwood from Chicago, we lived in a tent for 3 months while we built our basement. So we dug a hole and built the basement of our house.
Frontiers.
So I always say when we drove out, my dad had his Kubota tractor. He's a landscaper by trade. Had the Kubota tractor in the back of the dump truck with a trailer behind with, the tarp covering all of our stuff and 2 more vehicles behind him. We were a covered wagon train heading out. Yeah. I mean, the Wild West Clampets, right? Headed out and,
that's a great band name, by the way.
Very
Wild
real.
West Clampets.
There you go. I got a side project already, Dave. So when we landed in the Deadwood area, and we landed in an acre of woods in the middle of the national forest, just a tiny subdivision, one road, maybe 8 or 9 families, and all the kids were around the same age. These are all the kids that I grew up with. I'm still friends with to this day. And we just grew up tearing around the woods and campfire jams every night. And all these families were moving into this area at the same time. So while, not everyone was living in a tent, everyone was in that beginning, moving into a new place, getting to know each other. And yeah, what a great time to be. I mean, I was 10, 11 years old. My brother's a little bit younger than me. And to have all the freedom in the world in the woods and to camp for 3 months at that age, you don't even remember. I mean, yeah, cold showers and we had a well, so we had a cold stream of water coming out of the ground, out of a piece of PVC pipe on a spigot, right? It was as primitive as you get, man, but that really made us the people that we are. My dad kind of was just an iron will that he was going to make it happen, right? I think I definitely get that can't tell me no attitude from him. I've watched him in his business, and he worked for another company for a few years when we first moved out there. But as soon as he was able to get his feet under him just a little bit in his own company, that's what he was doing. My dad's always been a passionate man. He's a fiery man, right? He's a basketball player at his college. He was still on the record books and Hall of Fame athlete there, right? And I mean, he's always brought that passion to everything that he's done in his life. And maybe I've never given him his props for that, but now I am. Jim Startz.
I was going to say, you seem to have a passion.
I do.
for what you're doing.
And that comes from my dad. Yeah. I mean, and my mom is passionate as well. I don't mean to take anything away from her, but I've always seen my dad do his own thing and, for better or worse, not let anyone tell him no. Right. So that's kind of the basis of my my everything, right? Where I'm going to go out into the world. And a lot of the success that we're having is just because I'm not afraid to go knock on the door.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happened in Midwest Communications. I'm sent a bunch of emails to every station. I couldn't get in, you know, because I get a million emails a day. I know I'm just I know the game, right? So I'm going to say, hey, I'm in town. Just jumped off of Dakota News now. I'm going to walk right around the corner to where your office is. I'm going to buzz the ringer. I'm going to get the number that I need to. I'm going to step outside. I'll make the phone call. And I'm going to set up the meeting to get in front of somebody to do what I need to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I do, you know, and that's led to a lot of really great partnerships and a lot of future partnerships that are developing right now.
Yeah, you've got a lot of collaboration you're doing as well.
Well, and it's all collaboration. I can't do this on my own, and I can't build the scene on our own. Nobody can do it on their own, right? There's guys that have been building it. Corey Church with Nice Enough Entertainment and everything that they do to bring indie shows through here and have for years. Denim. Look at what this kid's doing. I mean, he's everywhere, right? He's absolutely blowing up and can't be a nice enough guy, right? I've never met him in person. I follow him, and I'm pretty sure he follows the band. And we're just so busy unless I'm scheduled to do a podcast or something, right? So it's almost like we need to collab on a show to even be able to sit down for a few minutes. This last Saturday, I was very fortunate to get a call from a buddy of ours. He was from the Hills, Rapid City area. They were playing at Monk's and then playing at Thirsty's on Saturday. Brandon Jones, his radio personality out for Home Slice Media, and great guy. Text me on Saturday afternoon. Hey, Bubba, you booked tonight? You want to come open at Thirsty's? St. Patrick's Day weekend at the biggest bar in Mitchell. You bet your butt, buddy. I'm in. So that's the synergy. That's the collaboration. That's the everything. And it's not just one person doing it. It's all of us doing it. Everybody's collaborating with everybody. Night Shield, who we just played a show with last month, now is collaborating on a show with Funkafried and putting something together there, right? There's big things that are happening that are bubbling under the surface right now that this summer are going to come above water and are going to be a really big deal. We got some great shows planned out. I mean, there's no doubting the way I'm looking at my calendar right now that this will easily be the biggest summer of my career, and I think a lot of other people's too.
All right. At what point did you become a songwriter as well?
I think I was probably a songwriter before I ever played a song, right? I've always written poetry and written things, and I've always been a song lover, a lyric lover, right? So I've written words before I ever played guitar or anything like that. So I think I became a songwriter very, very early. 10, 11, 12 years old, right? Probably writing things down, not thinking of them as songs yet. But by the time I had a guitar, 13 years old, I still play. I still play out some of my first songs because I kind of had a knack for it, Dave.
Right.
Where it was like, oh, I kind of know what sounds good. I grew up listening to nothing but the greatest of music, right? I wasn't a pop kid growing up. I was listening to Zeppelin and the Grateful Dead and classic music, right? And really good songwriting. Love the Beatles. Knowing what goes into a good song and what you're trying to get out of a good song. Those can be different things.
How do you describe your music? And tell us about Triple Fine.
So I call our style now modern gypsy rock. And I used to call it rockabilly reggae funk. That seemed to be a little bit too much of a mouthful. So yeah, I shortened it up. But somewhere between 90s bands like Sublime or Pearl Jam and Marshall Tucker and Leonard Skinner, right? So classic Southern rock with a little more edge, but the ability to involve and incorporate even electronic elements into what we're doing. It's not something that we've done yet, but it's something that I know is out there. The possibilities are out there. It's just a matter of making the connections with the collaborators to make it a fruition, to bring it to fruition rather. Because I love electronic music. When I went out to the West Coast at, 20, 21 years old, we went to raves and different things like that all the time. And I loved the energy of that music, especially breakbeats. It was very danceable. And then they would have the, drop it, build it, hit it and tap it out, and it had breaks. That's the next, the essential nature of breakbeat music, right? Is the breaks in the music, the drops, the kids call them, right? So as I was out there and influenced by that, I started to incorporate that into the way I was writing songs and working in these halftime feel sections to where the dubstep, right, which was a very popular 10 years ago, those kind of noises and feelings that it gave you fit really well into those. So some of these songs that you're hearing now as kind of a rock song, I have plans already to shop these to producers to remix these things. And, you know, to all of these songs are going to have 2 or 3 additions to them, right? And remixes and all of that stuff's in the works too. It just hasn't happened yet.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Triple Fine, tell us about the story behind this.
Triple Fine is just a love song, Dave. It came to me in a spurt, right? I wrote the whole thing down probably in, you know, the matter of minutes. The chord progressions, very simple, you know, a little 3 chords and the truth, you know, simple, boppy, 2.5 minutes, right? Doesn't clip on the time. It's a pop song. I always, from the moment I wrote it, was like, well, if there's ever a song that's going to make you famous, Bubba, that's probably the one, right? Just because it had all of those pop qualities. Not everything I write has that. Some of my songs strip into the 6-minute mark, right? And there's just no shortening them to make them radio ready. Well, then they're not for that. This one is for that. This is a commercial release if there ever was one. You know, if there's ever a song that a label hears and is like, we can make money off of that, which is, you know, all they want to hear anyway, that will be the one. So yeah, it's nice to have it out there and living in the wild now, and just kind of see what it does. We're going to push really hard on it all year. You know, it doesn't stop just because it's out. The work really begins now. I think we had 24 people or so pre-save it. So we got a lot of those views right off the bat, a lot of those listens. We already pushed past the first release we did in the first day, right? We already had more streams, which it wasn't much, right? We only had 60 streams or so on Rise Up because Rise Up had a different function. Rise Up was a toehold for me to finally just have something out there.
Right.
Like, holy cow, it took us like 8 months to do that, right? From start to finish was just like, okay, that's out. Now I can like, that was a lot. Yeah, that was a lot. You know, how do we get better at that so we can do the more regular releasing? So that led us to Tom Freer out at Cottonwood Recording in Rapid City. He did the guitar parts on Rise Up, and he has his own studio. He's a multi-instrumentalist. So I was like, hey, Tom, can you take this song that I have some live recordings of and build this song out so I can just sing over it? And I think within 2 weeks, he had the song back to me sounding pretty much like it does on the record now. I was like, that was amazing. You know, here's your money. And then it took me another 6 weeks to finish my part of it, which was literally just singing the song, you know, to find the time to do that. So it kind of, it happened really fast, and then a big gap, and then, you know, finally get it done and release it. And very fortunate to have somebody who's blowing up this year. Clayton Ryan played bass on this song, sang backups on the song, as well as Tom. Tom played the drums. Tom played the guitar, right? These 2 guys are out there doing it right now. Tom plays drums in the Kenny Fiedler and the Cowboy Killers. Clayton is doing his thing up in Minneapolis right now and just destroying it. He's wrote a song a day since the start of the year. They post on his Instagram page. On his Instagram page, he's the best follow on Instagram by far. He's going to blow up this year. He's got some really big gigs. We were going to have him down in April for our Gentleman Songwriters round. He called us last week like, hey, man, can we send somebody else from this area instead? Because I got an opportunity to open at, you know, the State Theater or wherever it is. I forgot what venue it is, but one of their big theater shows for a big national touring act. Right. Yeah. So he's growing. We're working with his management team with bringing other Minneapolis artists down here so that we can send artists up there, right? Finding that synergy. I'm also finding those same relationships in Kansas City, Omaha, you know, pretty much every big market, you know, within an 8-hour period that we can. And yeah, then from there it goes out another one, right? So you just keep growing. And yeah, it's pretty fun to watch it all spread, and it's kind of working, right? Where all these ideas that I've had is like, hey, so if you just had a network of shows booked along here and this whole, you know, this whole network built, then it kind of makes everybody's jobs really easy, and you're able to route your friends. Whoever wants to play can play, and whoever, wants to contribute has the ability to. So it's fun to be in this moment, Dave, because it's happening around me. I haven't even had time to digest and dissect the 2 weeks that I've had from being on the news and the radio and doing all. Yeah, we've posted little blurbs here, but there's so much more that happened behind the scene to lead to those that I haven't been able to tell the stories about, which is, nice to be on here with you so I can tell some of that backstory and share that with the world as well.
What do you enjoy most about what you do?
It's funny. I was just on the Levitt Music Maker seminar series, the Mixer. Yep. Yeah. So I joined online. I was on Zoom. So I was at home watching, and I was actually in the bowling alley watching my wife bowl with her ladies night league and tuning in simultaneously. Great thing that we're doing. I'm actually doing the next one, April 15th with Gabriel, with Night Shield. We're doing that. And then another, now I forget their name. Another collective, and we're just talking about collaboration, right? So that's the next one. Anyway, I'm in the chat last night. My friend Katie Dwyer pops in the chat. She's a great artist out of Pierre. She's a digital marketer. We're both looking and coming at the seminar from a much different place. A lot of the things that we're saying, we're already very aware of, so we're in the chat and kind of like, yeah, well, let's get on a chat afterwards and kind of talk about it. And, yeah, it's the marketing and the pumping up other people and the promotion and the energy in that. I think I like that more. I love playing music. Don't get me wrong, Dave. I love it. I love writing songs. I love sharing songs with people, but getting to connect with people, I really get to do that in the promotion side and to make those. I'm not an artist, right? I don't want to go hide in the studio and just make art and do all that. I'm like, no, I want to be out in the people, man. Yeah, I want to be connecting with people. So yeah, I find myself in a great spot now where I'm able to do both of those things kind of, right? Yeah, I enjoy my friends' wins almost more than my own. Yeah.
In fact, that's something that we speak so often of on this show is collaboration, not competition.
Yeah.
I've had Ruben Rodriguez on.
Oh yeah, Ruben
show.
Played bass with us last weekend.
Okay, yeah, and Ruben is just a great guy, and I saw him 3 times in 3 different trios at Our Wine Bar for jazz, and then finally the 4th time I saw him, it was the Ruben Rodriguez trio because he plays with anybody. Yeah. And, you've got those.
Well, that's how he fell into starts and ends for a couple of shows. He plays with he'll play with anybody. Yeah. Really lowered his bar to come play with
not at all.
Honky Tonk band. He's just so talented,
he
though.
He is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the
great
first
guy.
time. Yeah. And a great guy. He's just awesome, man. So we were been really fortunate to play the last couple of shows with him and just to have some fun. I mean, I don't require a lot of talent to do what we do. The stuff that we're playing is really simple, high energy music. We're kind of playing all the punk rock of all the genres, right? We're dipping into the Brooks and Dunn, the boot scooting, and we're playing these songs that are fun to dance to and fun to give your energy to more than we're trying to impress you with our musicianship. They're 1, 4, 5 blues tunes, Dave. There's not a lot to them, but they sure work to get people's butts moving out on the dance floor, and they're fun to play. But yeah, for a guy like Ruben to come and join my band, he can kind of take a half a night off, right? We loved having him, man. So shout out to Ruben.
Yeah. And by the way, I'll tell the story. I've told it a few times on here, but when I finally started recording here at home at the Dipsy Doodle production studio, he was the first guest. And we didn't have this set up yet. It was pretty simple. We tried to make it all work. Well, Ruben brings in 2 bags full of tacos from Giliberto's.
Ooh, my favorite.
And I'm like, oh, man, because my wife loves Mexican. I said, you are my love's favorite person as of now. You're number 1 on her list. And he says, I'm a Rodriguez. I know how to bring tacos.
A very Ruben joke.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And he's on, so many different things too. And it just proves how this community, I grew up down in Rock Rapids, 35 miles away, now closer to an hour trip because of everything they got to drive through. But when I came to Sioux Falls as a kid, first time I could drive and take a date, 68,000 is what the Sioux Falls population was.
Oh, wow.
Now it's 211 or something like
well,
that.
and that's not counting in all the towns
Exactly.
like T and Harrisburg, and all these
Harrisburg,
places that
Brandon.
have grown
Yeah.
exponentially.
And the thing was, it's like, okay, when I started coming up here, you could go to the State Theater, or after that, then, a theater at a mall. And about the only other thing art-wise you would come up for was symphony at Christmas time. And there really wasn't much beyond that. And over the past, I equate it even closer now to like 20 years.
Right.
That our arts community here has exploded.
Right. So I graduated in 2004, and I spent a portion of time down here living in my buddy's dorm room or car, wherever I could at that time. But we weren't necessarily in the scene or everything, but I don't remember it being, nothing down by 8th and Railroad was like it is now.
Oh,
then.
exactly.
That was dead property, right downtown. Yeah. And now look at it, all the buildings and, Monk's Ale House and the 8th Street, First Fridays, or is it First Fridays they do down there? Right. And then they have I don't know if they're going to do it again this year, but they had that big music festival down there. The That Sounds Decent festival was down there. I know because I booked Monks that night, not knowing, and played to almost nobody. But yeah, and then you have Wiley's doing their big block party. So you have some really big things that are happening. Obviously, the Levitt is huge. I think that really transformed the whole community because they're so focused on art, really. So, that foundation and what they do, Roseanne Hofflin and Nancy Halverson, just great ladies, everybody. Olivia in there, I just got to meet last weekend up front, Jake Perron with all the booking. Great. They've been awesome to us, have kind of invited me into more of the inner circle now, right? Getting to do the mixer and getting to be more involved in what they're doing. It's something that I also expressed an interest in as well, right? I wasn't coming from thanks for what you do for me, and then see you later.
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing. You look at our Facebook page, and what, my motto is almost verbatim what theirs is on their top, building community through music, right? I probably got a little wordier with it or something and trying to be esoteric or something, right? But essentially the same thing and my whole goal. So it's like, okay, yeah, let's put ourselves together and in the same room as much as possible. And, that's why we started our company. My wife and I started DBS Entertainment. DBS Entertains for short. That's kind of how we'll brand it. But we started our own, Danielle and Bubba Startz. That's where we get the DBS from. Also, the Danish Brothers Society in Viborg. I just found out. I took a picture down there. I was going through last week. So we started our own entertainment company to kind of remove starts and ends, because starts and ends is its own thing, right? It's the band, it's all of this. So we should separate some of the stuff that we're doing. A lot of I'm looking at setting up weekly open mics and songwriter nights and doing all that stuff. Well, that's not really starts and ends related. I can promote it through that page, but it really needs its own home. So we started our own business. I'm all in. I only do this for a living now, as of 6 a.m. yesterday morning. But I'm still using that same mentality from working in the factory for the last 5 years, waking up at 4:30 and putting the boots on and going to work. I'm still doing that. I'm just doing that for myself. Right. So now those quiet hours in the morning, instead of going and starting to hammer on some welds, I can sit at home, do all my computer work and finish all of that in those quiet hours before anybody's up, and I can even have a meeting anyway. And now that's done. I've made that time for this now. Now I can get out. I can come do podcasts all day. I can be in the media. I can be talking to radio. I can be talking to TV. I can be forming these relationships all day, every day now, instead of, I got one day a month that I can take off and go do all this stuff.
Well, because when I first contacted you, it was like, no, I hardly ever get to Sioux Falls.
Yeah, I can't.
And now it's like, now
I'm trying to be here once. Yeah, now I'm trying to be here at least once a week. And like I said, I'd like to build out some weekly stuff here. So if there are venues that are listening and people that are interested in having, weekly live music, I want to do some songwriter night stuff. I want to do more to foster our original music scene. I think there's plenty of places for the cover bands to go out and do their thing. Places like the Thirsty Duck welcomed us with open arms when we had no name at all. Throughout the course of our career, we're going to outgrow places like that. And I think we have. When we started going to, starting to do ticketed shows here, June 22nd at the Icon, that's the end of free shows unless we're at the Levitt or it's a benefit, right? So kind of preparing our fan base to get prepared for paying for shows, but we're going to put on some really cool shows. We're going to be collaborating with our friends, guys like Chris Garcia, Funka Fried. We're already in talks with them and collaborating. Nothing in stone yet, but the more we build out this scene, the more everything becomes possible, Dave, right? It's the more we can meet and get together, these relationships are going to form naturally, and it's just going to keep growing. So it's fun. I was telling the guys at the songwriter night, we hosted at Dr. Lucky's March 9th, our ladies night songwriters rounds. And I'm telling the guy standing here, like, a year from now, people aren't even going to recognize these pictures. They're going to look at these pictures and say, that's this place? And there's no way. But it's hard to sell that idea. Right. It's hard to give everyone else that vision when I see it. Now it's just my job to go make it a reality, you're not going to do that on a few hours a week or a few hours a month that you might have to spend. I had to go all in, and I have the confidence that the money will come. I got a lot of faith too. I don't know, I'm not a deeply religious man. I'm a very spiritual person, but I have a deep faith in that this universe is going to provide. And if you just listen and you shut up sometimes, which I definitely have a problem doing, but it will guide you. And too many things in the last just 2 weeks of my life, which really stem back even farther. The show we produced in November for Roe and Grace only becomes reality because my good buddy Jesse Allen back at the Deadwood Mountain Grand got me into the Wild West Songwriters Festival. And the person on that round that was supposed to be with us had to cancel last minute, and in walks Roe and Grace to that round. And then her dad's like, gosh, I'm in, the area, this date, this time. Can you think you can help us out? I put out the APB. One of my old high school classmates, uncle, owns the bar in Mitchell. Hey, call him. Maybe you guys can work something out. Now that's evolved to Dr. Lucky's has a full schedule this summer of awesome shows that we're bringing. Now it's permeating out into other, places in town. The Back 40 is now going to host a show as well, right? I'm not exclusive. We're not trying to take anything away from anybody. Different shows are going to have different homes, So a lot of things are going to be happening in Mitchell this year. And this is just the start. I mean, this is these synapses are just starting, right? If you start to think of it like a brain and the way, mycelium work and the way information travels in there, what an amazing organism that can be, right? I'm kind of deep down some rabbit holes of mycology and different things, right? That we are in that moment right now. These synapses are happening. These little interactions are leading to bigger and bigger interactions. I have July 4th in Yankton that we're doing before their fireworks festival. We're an opener for that one. July 5th, we're the headliner at the Mitchell downtown celebration. It's their first Fridays, and July 5th is going to be a big one with everybody having the holiday weekend. We're doing 5 hours of music, talking with other local artists about doing some stuff. And so we got some huge shows on the list, and I can't wait to share the schedule with everybody. Right now, we've only taken it up to May. End of May, we play at Pave for our first time, and it would just be a solo or maybe duo gig. But yeah, we're moving into some more of the Sioux Falls venues that we haven't played
Remedy
yet.
At 611, I see.
Yep, that one's the 19th of
Our,
April.
Variety show just played there.
Awesome.
Weeks back.
Yeah, great. And that's a Corey Church move, right? Corey invited me on the show. Working with him also to go out and play Four Winds out in Rapid City, where I'm from the Deadwood area, right? So to go back home and be able to take place an event that we did in Sioux Falls last year. And the way that happened was that they opened it up for, hey, one more band, most likes on this post gets in, right? And our fans showed up huge for us. I think we had 80 more likes than anybody else in the competition, right? So he cracked that door open and we came barging right in. But it got us in the door and it got conversations started. And maybe we're not, Corey does a lot more independent, harder rock stuff, or does some hip hop stuff and a lot of different things that he's got his fingers into. That Starts and Ends doesn't necessarily fit into a lot of that. So without him making that opportunity out there and then us capitalizing on it, we might never talk in the first place. Well, now it's leading us into Remedy 611, open up for Scrizzly Adams. Well, that Scrizzly Adams show on 419 opened the door for me to talk to him about, hey, you guys aren't playing 420. You want to do one more show at my venue 50 miles away? Yeah, let's do it. Well, now we got another show booked, right? So it's each one of these things just keeps building on the other. So hence why I'm like, I need to be doing things. I need to be out talking with people and forming relationships and to keep growing this and seeing where it goes. I can't be going and giving 50 hours a week to somebody else for a little bit of money. We'll find the money. Yeah. I'm a busker, Dave. I walked around with a guitar on my back, you know.
Well, you brought it in from the outside.
I sure did, didn't I? Yeah. Well, you got to take care of these ladies. Yes, they are finicky.
No doubt about that. All right. It's always a tradition. The final two questions. How you answer the first question might determine whether we need to answer the second question.
Okay.
But since you're a first-time guest, you get the old, the tried and true questions. When you're not part of the arts and entertainment scene, what do you like to be entertained by?
Sports.
Ah.
Yep.
Oh, no yes, and we have a common thread, don't we?
We do.
The Cubbies.
That's right.
And let's see, this comes out on Thursday morning. Another week.
Oh,
Opening
nice.
Day.
I can't wait.
I know it.
I'm more excited about Cubs baseball this year than I have been in a long time. So I like to listen to the radio feeds.
Oh, me too.
That's
Pat
obviously
Hughes?
Radio Guy. Pat Hughes is the best man. Ron Coomer. The best broadcast in baseball. I know Pat Hughes is retired this year, and Zach Zaidman, I think, is stepping up, right? Yeah. So really cool to watch him grow too. I've been listening for the last 5 years, where I found it on TuneIn Radio, and I could just every game I'm at work with the Bluetooth headphones in and working away, welding.
I got the MLB package.
Nice. Yeah. And I think that's what I have now. Right. So yeah, they get my money and I love it. It's the sound of summer. I think if somebody said the soundtrack of summer, Cubs baseball in the background and flying the W. Love it. We're big Chicago fans across the board.
For people that have never been to Wrigley Field, go there. Even if you're not that big of a baseball fan.
Yeah, you got to
go. Because it is a piece of Americana.
Yep.
When you stand up and sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
It's the best.
In the seventh inning
Dave,
stretch,
I can't wait to do it.
I'm getting chills right now talking about it.
Right.
It's just this incredible experience.
Right. And you talk about, I don't have a lot of bucket list music things like venues or stuff. Red Rocks is one. It's a pretty short list. If I ever got the chance to play Carnegie Hall, I mean, come on, right? I'm stoked. But there's not a lot of those.
Yeah.
Singing the national anthem at a Cubs game and doing the seventh inning stretch are the very top. I can die a happy man having done those things. And so that's why I'm pushing, man. I just keep on. I think if we just keep doing what we're doing to see the growth we already have.
Tickets to that game.
Well, you're going to get them, Dave. Right. You got front row seats to that one. I know it's attainable too. Yeah. I think that's to see the growth that we've had just in the last year to go from maybe a few thousand views to, I think the last, whatever they do, 28 days, we reached 118,000 people. Wow. That's huge.
Yes,
those are huge numbers that you start to, people are seeing it. Now I need to take the time to make better content to deliver to these people. And hopefully we can just keep growing. And I'm a big Jelly Roll fan. I'm a big Alexandra Kay fan. We saw her last year in July, and she kind of changed my career and put me on a fast track because I saw that it was the connection. It was the meet and greet she did beforehand that made people love her. Right. Yeah. You had great songs, and these songs have touched people's lives, but you touched their life when you gave them a little bit of time. And that's what's turned my view into, what can I do to make this special for you? What, for each and every single fan, what can I do to make this the best night of your life? Right. This might be your one time this month that you're going out, or this one time in the next several months that you're going out. You found a babysitter. You did all those things. Ain't nobody got a lot of money these days. Right. So for you to come out and give us a little bit of time and a little bit of your money, I want to do everything in my power to do it. And I ain't got a lot of money either, but I can spend some time. That's why the VIP passes and the little things like this are so important, because it's pennies to me, but it might mean the world to you. And that's where the growth is coming from. That's where it's all stemming from, is that people see that we care. I'm not just out here for me playing music and going home. I want to connect with you. One day you might need a benefit thrown because a member of your family has cancer, or God forbid, has passed something. We want to be that band that you call to do those things, right? So getting out there and just meeting people so that they have the opportunity to call us when they need us. That's really what this is all about, Dave. Is the attention's great. I love that I can quit my job. Sure. But I really just want to bring attention to your causes. I want to be able to leverage the attention that I'm having and making it do something good. And that's really what I see from Jelly Roll, is toy drives and the way he employs ex-felons and kind of hooks them up with a business license. And like, here, man, here's a food truck on tour. Make it yourself and we'll teach you how to do your taxes and all that stuff. That's what I want to be able to provide that to my people and my community. So yeah, we're looking for that community, right? That's why it's imperative that we just keep getting more and more stuff out there and getting to do fun podcasts like this.
All right. Final question then.
All right.
Any other hobbies?
Sports. We golf. We're avid golfers. We're avid bowlers. I sponsor actually a couple of bowling teams in Tyndall, a ladies team and a Saturday night mixed team. We just had the bar tournament on Sunday. One of our teams did very well. They took second place. So super proud of them and proud of our other team as well. They showed up and competed. And yeah, we're very involved. I got kids. So my kids are 11, 8, and 7 right now. So they're in baseball all summer. They're in wrestling all winter long. So we work really close with our wrestling association. June 8th, we're going to throw a big street dance party in Tyndall for Hot Dog Night. I just started working with the Chamber of Commerce. There was a time when Hot Dog Night in Tyndall was the belle of the ball, and I intend to bring that back. So working closely with our chamber there in town and bringing my energy everywhere, Dave,
and
anywhere I can. And we're already talking about things where we get to work together more too. So I can't wait, man. Hobby podcasting. That's my new hobby.
All right. Appreciate it. Bubba Startz, thank you so much for the time today.
Dave, thank you. This was wonderful.
All right. And we'll be back with more of the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics, inside Oscar's Mini Storage. We have thousands of classic vintage ceramic mold items and several new items too. TJS Ceramics offers classes, special open studio nights, and completed ready-to-purchase items. Bisque, studio time, or painting parties are available. Visit TJS Ceramics Studio in person today or email tjsceramics@gmail.com for more details.
Are you an artist? Need some funding to further your art? There's a great opportunity for you through a Sioux Falls Arts Council program. The Artist Microgrant program gives away several microgrants to local artists, no matter what art discipline you're in. Unlike more traditional grants, a microgrant is very easy to apply for. Go to artssiouxfalls.org. If you haven't done so yet, create a listing on the Artist Directory, which is beneficial in its own way. Then go to the Artist Microgrants page and apply online. The process is simple. Find out more about the Sioux Falls Arts Council as well online at artssiouxfalls.org.
Funny, engaging, connected. He's the entertainment reporter for Sioux Falls. Here's Dave Holly.
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, it is a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment. Always a pleasure to have a new guest on. This is 2 new guests this show. We like that. That's a lot of fun, but we always welcome back those that return. Today, however, switching gears a little bit. It's been a while since we've had an author on, but typically when we've had an author, they write novels. Do you consider yourself a novelist, though?
I think I would, mainly because that's my passion.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Christine Weavick joins us. And she is the one that, if you've ever wondered about some of the cold cases in South Dakota, she writes about them. What got you started doing that versus just saying, I want to write a short story, I want to write a novel, but you do compile things.
Yes.
So what got you to do that?
I've always been kind of a true crime buff.
Okay.
And mysteries, reading mysteries and absorbing all kinds of true crime things. It's always been kind of an obsession for me. And then I had always wanted to write fiction. I'd always wanted to write mysteries. But then when I married my husband in 1986 and moved to his neck of the woods, I discovered the story of the 2 missing girls, Pamela Jackson and Cheryl Miller. And it happened right in their area. My husband's family knew their families, and I kind of got obsessed with the case. I really wanted to be the person who solved it. I was just obsessed with it and just found as much as I could on the story. And at one point I thought, this would be an interesting book. This would be, even if it wasn't book length for that story, it would be interesting to write about some of the cold cases in South Dakota. and that story being chief among them. And then it was solved, and I thought, shoot. First of all, I was mad at myself that I didn't solve it. Yes, and it was 3 miles from our house, where their car was found, and I'm like, dang it. I could have been the person to find that car, but then I wasn't really out looking, so I couldn't blame anyone but myself. And then I thought, no, I think there are enough cold cases in South Dakota that I could still write about them.
Mm-hmm.
And this story would serve as a great testament to hope and perseverance for families whose loved ones' cases has never been solved. And I thought, how much hope would that give people to know that a case could be solved even after 40 years? So I thought that would be a great opener for the book. And there were stories in this book that were kind of personal to me. So I felt compelled to write it. My very first book was a humorous self-help book about living with hair loss because I have alopecia. And I always say that's the book I had to write.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to write fiction. I wanted to write mysteries. So those were the books I wanted to write. But I felt like I would like, at the end of my life, to know that my writing has done the world some good. It has, served a purpose rather than just entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing about 3 of the cases in the book personally, I have a classmate whose murder was never solved. A family friend whose daughter's murder was never solved, and another friend whose sister's murder was never solved. I thought, why not dive into some of these cases and write a book about it?
What do you find your investigative skills are as a writer versus an investigative, detective or anything in law enforcement?
I don't know if I have any skills other than what anybody else would have, including detectives. I don't know if I'd call it a skill so much as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I have time. And I think that law enforcement personnel don't really have the time or the money to dive into some of these cases. If there's not leads coming in, they don't have the manpower or the money to throw at these cases to dive into a cold case because they have enough with current cases on their own hands. And so I kind of felt like I had the time to just kind of go down all the rabbit holes and look into some of these cases. And I can't say that I have any particular set of tools, as Liam Neeson would say, to do it any better than anybody else. But I'm extremely curious.
Mm-hmm.
I like putting together details and facts, finding out things about these cases that are kind of overlooked by other people. If you have a moment, I could tell you about one of those cases.
Please do.
Okay. Even if my book doesn't get any of these cases solved, I feel like it's already done some good. Because one of the cases that I wrote about in this book was about this girl named Jolene Haas. And she was a young woman who was found murdered in her motel room in Rapid City. And I believe it was like 1974. And she was set to testify at a trial in the upcoming week. And she was an informant. And I couldn't find very much information about this young lady online. Pretty much all my information came from online sources, newspaper articles, television reports that were online, things like that. And I had found 2 or 3 little paragraphs about this young woman, but I never found anything more. And the things that I did find out about her were not very nice. They had nothing good to say about this young woman. And it was heartbreaking because that became her identity. And that became almost a reason why she wasn't worth looking into or why there weren't any further articles, because our papers had painted her as trash. And it was heartbreaking. And I was sad that I couldn't find more information about this young woman. So I thought, well, I'll just put it aside. I don't want that to be the only thing I put in this book. So I put it on the back of my desk until I was just about done with the book. And I thought, I'm going to look into that one more time. So I started looking into this young woman's story. And in one of those articles, it said that she was from the Fort Dodge, Iowa area. And I thought, well, it's worth my time to investigate and see if I can find any relatives. I found her mother's obituary, and she hadn't died that long ago either. And so in her mother's obituary, it said that both of her parents were gone, and she had 2 sisters, Pam and Kathy. And so I researched Kathy's name and found a phone number, and lo and behold, it worked. And that doesn't happen very often. And I called her, and she immediately started crying. And she was so touched that someone wanted to look into her sister's death, because the case had gotten no attention since 1974. And so I talked with her for a long, long time. And she said, I told her I was working on this book and would like to put her sister's story in there. And she said, as much as I would love to see some attention on her case, I really don't want all of those bad things dredged up again. And I said, I don't blame you one bit.
Right.
And I said, I won't put it in the book if you don't want it, because I was doing this book with the family's blessings. I wanted all the families and friends of these victims to know about it and to be involved. And I have tributes from almost all of them if I could find family members. So anyway, we were talking on the phone, and at one point before we hung up, she said, I don't know why she didn't use the gun they gave her. And I said, who gave her a gun? And she said, well, law enforcement did, because she was going to be a witness at this trial. And I said, well, I've watched enough Law and Order to know that they don't give informants weapons.
Yeah.
Law enforcement don't. They don't issue weapons. And she said, well, yeah, they got it back after she died. And she didn't know a whole lot about her sister's story. She said after she died, they pretty much kind of put it out of their mind because they didn't want to be faced with all of those ugly things that they said about her. And I said, no, I don't blame you. So then we're talking, and she said, well, in our newspapers, from what I recall way back when, I was still a kid, but they kind of talked about her like she was a hero because she was going to inform on these people. And I said, absolutely. You know, that takes some courage. And the South Dakota papers all said that she had a history with drugs and alcohol and prostitution. She skipped from job to job and ran around with these dangerous biker groups. And so they painted her as basically a bad person. And so I didn't blame her for not wanting to bring all that up. But when she talked about their newspapers mentioning her as a hero, I said, can you copy those articles and send them to me? So she did. And then when I got those newspapers, I read through all of them. Come to find out, her sister was an undercover narcotics agent. She was not.
Wow.
She was
very
not
interesting.
Yes, she was not the trash that they painted her as in the South Dakota papers.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, we did a huge disservice to that young woman in all of those awful things we said. And I said, well, if you will allow me, I will write her story from that perspective. And I will not talk about the way that South Dakota talked about her. And I'll write her story with that perspective. And she said, that'd be great. I still don't know if my sister would be on board with putting it in the book. And I said, you decide. I'll write the story, and you decide if you want it in there or if you want to contribute a tribute to her. And so I wrote the story. And as I'm reading through it, I caught one line. And this is what I call maybe a special gift for me, because I will pick things apart. I caught one line in the article in the Fort Dodge paper that said, in early reports of her murder, it was not revealed that she was an undercover narcotics agent in the hopes that it would elicit a confession from her killer. So they painted her as trash, as an informant, a snitch, because they know bad guys have no issues bragging about killing a snitch.
Right.
But if they knew she was undercover, if they knew she was law enforcement, they would never confess to that because that's a capital offense. And so I caught that, and I put that in her story. And I said, so basically it was all a ruse. Everything that they said in South Dakota papers was all a ruse to get someone to confess, and it didn't work. And unfortunately, They also never cleared the record. They never said that she was an undercover narcotics agent, because when I was reading those articles, it said that our governor sent her family a letter of commendation for going above and beyond the call of duty. And also he sent them a flag, and then our attorney general, who was Janklow at the time, delivered her eulogy at her funeral, and 6 detectives were her pallbearers.
Oh,
they don't do that for informants. No. And so I wrote the story. She was a hero. She was an undercover narcotics agent that died in the line of duty. And I wrote the story that way, sent it to Kathy and to Pam, and they both approved, and they both wrote tributes, and we put her story in the book. So I feel like even if this book never solves another crime, it helped set someone else's heart at ease about their loved one, who all this time they believed was this bad person.
Not full closure to someone's life, because they obviously haven't found and so forth, but at least it's on that road then, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
And the person who was suspected of killing her was murdered not long afterward. He was the person she was testifying against. And then he was murdered by one of the other people in his drug ring. And then that person ended up going to prison. So, yeah, it was gratifying. It was so gratifying. And she was so glad that we dived into that story and uncovered that truth about her sister, because it just relieved them of that burden of these bad things everyone said about their sister.
What a great story. I see a movie in that one. Wow.
I know it. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something?
So how many cold cases have you written about, and how many more are you writing about?
Oh, gosh. There's 52 in this book. In the process of writing the book, I found more than 150 cases.
All South Dakota?
Yes, all South Dakota. And that's just dating back to 1969. I didn't go back any further than that, because the whole purpose of the book was to maybe bring some leads to the forefront and maybe see some of these cases get solved. And I figured anything later than 1969, perpetrator's probably dead or in a nursing home.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. And so, and then right before the book went to publication, I got a link from Angela Kennecke. She wrote the foreword for the book. I got a link from her, and that was quite a few more names to add to that list. 38 of those that I briefly investigated would be worthy of being unsolved or disputed deaths or disappearances. And that would bring the total up to 193.
My goodness.
Yeah. And I've had people ask if I'm working on a second book. But the issue with that is that I can find the cases. I can find names. I can find family members who say, my sister was murdered and it was never solved. My uncle was murdered. My brother went missing. I can find those cases, but I can't find enough information, because the majority of the cases that are left are Native American, and it's incredibly hard to find details about those cases.
So when you start writing and you go, well, the police never said anything about this, do you get reaction from law enforcement afterward, after you've written something?
A reaction would be wonderful. Some kind of response. When I announced that I was going to write this book, I found an article that Kate Yellow had put on many years ago, in which Marty Jackley, who was Attorney General at the time, said that we had 30 unsolved cases in South Dakota, 30 cold cases. And I thought, well, that's a great place to start. So I contacted their office and said, I told them what I was doing. I'm writing this book. I don't want to publish anything that's sensitive or privileged information. I don't want to get in the middle of an investigation. And any cases that I mention will have contact information for law enforcement agencies, so that anyone with a tip can contact them directly. I don't want to be in the middle. don't want to know anything. And so I wrote to them and said, do you have a list of those names or where they occurred? Just basic details about that case so I can look up the rest. And they wrote back and said, we have no reservations with your project. Good luck. We don't have a list. You'll just have to contact every county in the state. And
Interesting.
I thought afterward, how do you know that there are 30 cases if
Right,
you don't have a
if you
list?
don't have-
I was a little thick that I didn't think of that right off the bat. But it was a little bit surprising and a little bit offensive because I'm not doing this for me. It's for you. You don't want help clearing
Right.
these cases, highlighting these cases. And I'm not putting anything out there that's subjective or anything that's rumor or anything that's just, a theory. I'm just stating the details, the facts about each case and putting it out there so that people can talk, people can ask questions, people can, maybe it'll trigger some memories and they can call in some tips. And so I thought, fine, I'll contact every county. So I emailed every single county in the state and I heard back from 5 out of 66. Yes. Then the following year, I wrote physical letters to every county. I heard back from 4 more. Of those 9, all of them were supportive, but none of them had a cold case in their county. Anyone who did have a cold case in their county never wrote back. And in the counties that I contacted that had a cold case, I couldn't get anybody on the phone to talk to me. Couldn't get anyone to talk to me. And if I had a specific question about a case, I'll have them call you back. And they never call back. So I'd call them back. Oh, he's out of the office. He's on another line. He's in a meeting. He's whatever.
Run around.
It was a run around.
Yeah.
I got a call back from one county, and it was a deputy sheriff who said that he would call me with more information. And he did call back and give me a little bit more than what was in the paper, but it still wasn't really enough for a story. So I couldn't really put it in the book.
At what point do law enforcement say, it's cold case now, and put it on the back burner or put it in that evidence room in a big box?
Well, it pretty much, I don't think any of them really want to say that
they couldn't solve
they're done, that they couldn't solve it. Yeah. I don't think that any of them want to be done with a case. They would love it if tips kept coming in. But in their defense, they have a job to do,
right.
and they're inundated with other cases and more important things. But if there's no leads coming in, it's usually considered a cold case after like 3 years.
Okay.
I was writing this book. I was working on the book, I should say, researching, when a friend of mine through Facebook, Pat Schultes, said that her son was missing, Eugene Prince, up by Woonsocket. And every day she'd write about it, and she'd write to him and say, son, I don't know where you're at. I'm hoping we can find you soon. I hope you're okay. Every day she would write about it. And at one point we messaged each other, and I said, don't worry, Pat, they'll find him. He won't be in the book. And he ended up in the book because leads stopped coming in. They never found a trace of him. And it was right at his 3rd anniversary of his disappearance that they confirmed that bone fragments found in a ditch were his. But the fishy part of that story is that that ditch where he was found would have been only waist high in water at the time that he went missing. And that ditch wasn't far from where he went missing. And that's where they started their search for him every single day when they'd go out looking. And that ditch had been searched 4 times, even with cadaver dogs, and never found him. So it was odd for these bone fragments to show up in this ditch with his phone and a piece of fabric from his shirt. Those things were found in this ditch and confirmed to be him after 3 years. And she said, it doesn't make sense. So that looked fishy. But yeah, to go back to the how long until they call it a cold case. I would say until leads stop coming in. And just one little thing that law enforcement said to me once that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was talking with a man who basically asked about one of my novels. He had, excuse me, he had read one of my novels and said he really liked it. And then he said something like, "Oh, I was sad that you put law enforcement in a bad light in that book." And I said, "Well, there, for better or worse, there are bad people in every walk of life, law enforcement included. So this is not anything against you." And then I said, "Are you law enforcement?" And he said, "Yes, I'm retired sheriff in Laverne." And I said, "So do you know about the Kelly Robinson case, the young woman who was found in your quarry?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I remember that. I was working that case when she was found." And I said, "What can you tell me about that?" And he said, "Oh, not much. And I don't even know if there's any evidence left. We just found her with a jacket and slacks on, and that was all. And there was no DNA evidence because she was found in the water." And I said, "You don't have anything else you can offer about that story?" And he said, "No, not really. It's cold and it's never going to be solved." And he was very blasé about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, maybe you can answer one question for me then. Why do I not get more involvement, more interest, more help from law enforcement?" And he said, "Well, sad to say, but out of sight, out of mind." And I was like, oh, I hope you never say that to a family member.
No kidding.
It's never out of sight and out of mind with a family member. Never. That it was insensitive and it was cold. It might be true, but it's just heartless.
What case has fascinated you the most?
Oh, gosh. I would have to say Arnold Archambault and Ruby Brouillard. Are you familiar with that case?
No, I'm not.
Oh, gosh. Buckle up. This is about a young couple who went missing in 1992. They were in a car joyriding for most of the night with her cousin, Tracy Dion. Tracy was in the back seat. Arnold and Ruby were in the front. They were a young couple, and they had a baby together, but the baby was at her dad's, I believe. And they'd been out joyriding one night, and this is December 12th, 1992. And it was very cold out that night, and they were about a mile outside of Lake Andes, and somehow there's varying stories about how their car ended up in the ditch. Somehow their car ended up upside down in this ditch, an embankment, just like a ditch between the highway and Lake Andes.
Mm-hmm.
The car was upside down. Arnold, when Tracy came to, she said Arnold was not in the front seat. Ruby was kicking the door and saying, "Oh my God," kicking the front door. Eventually she got the door open and got out, and the door went shut again. And Tracy was trapped in the back seat and had to wait to be rescued. So when they finally got Tracy out of the car, there was no trace of Arnold and Ruby. They couldn't find them anywhere. And so family members and the sheriff at the time, the deputy sheriff, they all put in this intense search for these two young people, looking for them everywhere in the woods and on the lake. There are pictures of the deputy sheriffs out on the lake looking for a hole in the ice, and there was none. They were not in the lake. They weren't in the water. They weren't in the ditch. Could not find these kids anywhere. That search went on for weeks, and they never found them. New Year's Eve, a young woman claimed that she saw Arnold in the backseat of a car with a couple other young men. And she said, "Are you guys coming into the party?" And she said, "Arnold, where have you been? Everybody's been looking for you." And Arnold didn't say anything. And the other young men in the car said, "No, we're not coming into the party." And they took off. And so they left. She went to the police and said, "I just saw Arnold." And so she ended up taking a lie detector test, and she passed. When they got the young men in there, they took the lie detector test and they did not pass. And
surprise,
but there
surprise.
there was no evidence that Arnold was ever with them, so they couldn't ever press charges or anything. Then the search is still ongoing for these two kids. They never found Arnold and Ruby. And then 3 months later, in March of 92, it would be 93, I guess, some man driving past that spot where the accident happened saw something floating in the water, 4 feet of water in the ditch, and called police. It turned out to be Ruby's body.
Oh.
Yeah. She was floating in about 4 feet of water, and they pulled her out, and she was very decomposed. She looked like she had died a long time ago. And so then they thought, well, if she's in this water, maybe he is as well. So they pumped the ditch, and they found Arnold in the water 15 feet away. He was underneath the water, though. He wasn't floating. And the weird thing about this is I've seen pictures of him, and he looked like he died in his sleep the night before. He was in pristine condition. And eventually, law enforcement came up with the conclusion that these two died the night of the accident, that there's no foul play involved, but the bodies were moved there.
Oh,
like,
goodness.
Who would move a body?
Right.
What's the point? Why was she so decomposed and he was not? And how can you say they both died the night of the accident, but they're in such different states of decomposition?
What's the piece of evidence that is usually missing when you're trying to locate somebody and it's a cold case? You know, they always say that a criminal makes a mistake, but why do we have 130 plus cold cases?
Right. I think a lot of times it's a witness, or maybe it's not even a witness. Maybe it's someone who's willing to speak up. Someone who's willing to speak up. And
not brave enough to take the stand.
Right. Right. Like in the case of Tammy Haas. I mean, she died in 1992. She was missing for 6 days, and then her body was found in Iowa. She was from Yankton. Her body, or Nebraska, sorry. And the people that she was with that night have basically clammed up. Somebody knows something, and they're not talking. And that has basically led to inaction on the case. Her suspected killer was tried and acquitted. That would be Eric Stuckel, and he was acquitted. But I think it's just physical evidence that ties someone to a case. When it comes to Native American cases, especially on the reservation, I think that having multiple jurisdictions involved in those cases is a detriment to the case rather than a positive, because when something is deemed a federal crime, such as a kidnapping or a murder, it's handed off to FBI, and the FBI can decline a case and never tell law enforcement that they're done with it. And the FBI has a tendency to just kind of wax over a lot of those things. Like one of the cases, this woman was pulled from the river, and they said, and because the coroner said that she was an alcoholic, judging by her liver,
they automatically
said she was an alcoholic, she was drunk, and she drowned. And the coroner also said there's no water in her lungs. She was dead before she was put in the river. So she was beaten to death and thrown in the river, but it's still considered an accidental drowning, and they won't reopen it. So that's kind of what you're dealing with there. I mean, you have a lot of different jurisdictions.
What do you hope you find every time that you're going out and starting to investigate a cold case? You're looking to find a clue, a lead. I'm hopeful that I could find the one line like I found with Jolene Haas's case, the one line that kind of explains things or something that gets overlooked. There's one case that always stands out in my mind about this. I think I saw it on Cold Case Files or something, where this young woman had been murdered. Her husband was out playing cards with friends at a bar, and he wasn't far away, but
he had an alibi. Everybody could say he was with us. He was playing cards the whole night, except when he stepped out for a cigarette, except when he went to use the phone. And eventually, this case went cold. And then when they went back to, someone was digging through all of the photos of the crime scene and saw something in the photo that made them go back and question some of these witnesses and said, did he ever leave? And at some point, one of them said, well, he only went out to use the phone in the lobby. But then another one said, well, yeah, but when I went to the restroom, I never saw him on the phone. And well, that must have been when he stepped out for a cigarette. And then another person said, yeah, and I noticed that when he came back from having a cigarette, he didn't have his coat on. And they said, what coat was he wearing? Well, it looked like a letterman's jacket, you know, a dark body and the white sleeves. And they said, you're sure he was wearing that? And they're like, yeah, we took pictures or whatever. We took pictures when we were playing cards that night, and we have him in that coat sitting right here. Excuse me. So then the police went back to their photos and said, is this the coat here? And they said, yes. Come to find out, it was the coat that was hanging on the back of the bathroom, on the back of the bedroom door when that murder occurred, because it had blood spatter on it. So he went home, killed his wife when he said he was out having a cigarette, left his coat at home, came back to the bar and forgot his coat. And that's what hung him up. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, you know? And even if I don't come up with those things, at the end of every chapter, at the end of every story, I ask questions just to get people talking, just to make people think about things that came out in the story. The story of Cody Rodriguez is a young man from Porcupine, South Dakota, who went to Salt Lake. He was there staying with a friend. He was very excited about saving up enough money to build his mom a house. So we all know that he was happy about his job and his place in life. His roommate said that just as he was stepping out to have a cigarette, Cody came home, stepped inside the apartment door, and shot himself in the back of the head. And no one could come up with a reason why he would have wanted to do that, or why he would do it right inside the apartment door. You know, that doesn't make sense. Why not go in the bathroom? Why not go in your bedroom, sit down on the couch, or do it in your car? But the weird thing is, Cody was found inside the door of this apartment, and there's a blood trail that goes from Cody's apartment 4 doors down to another apartment that looks like he'd been carried from that other apartment to where he lived and laying on the floor. And no one ever investigated that blood trail. Nobody asked the other occupants of the other apartment if Cody was down there or what happened or what the blood trail is for. The police never went and questioned them.
Are we behind on such things as DNA and other tools?
In South Dakota?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're behind. I think that we are behind in terms of getting training. I think we're behind in training on actual crime scenes, how to work a crime scene, because I think so many things are missed in some of these investigations, that we don't have the right resources here. We don't have the right kind of crime scene techs to come in to secure the scene. I don't think we're behind as far as DNA and things like that. I mean, when you look at the baby Andrew story, that little baby that was found in the ditch in 1981, I applaud law enforcement for being so diligent with that case. Every year on his birthday, they would pull up that DNA and try and match it to CODIS. And eventually they found a match through an ancestry site that someone had submitted their DNA to. And so in that respect, I think, yes, we're on the ball, but I think that we need more training in how to handle cold cases or how to handle murder cases, things like that, kidnappings.
I love the title, Someone You Know.
Someone knows.
Or someone knows, excuse me.
Yes. I truly believe that.
Because that, as you mentioned, that, somewhere somebody knows what happened.
That's right.
And whether it's just, not being brave enough to testify or to come forward and say, I think I recall It's a shame that happens, but it is interesting to see what comes of cold cases, and very interesting reading. And it's a great book. How can people get it, first of all?
Barnes & Noble here in Sioux Falls and in Sioux City carry it. And you can also find it on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And I believe Walmart and Target online probably sell it too.
Yeah.
It's widely available online.
Excellent. Someone knows.
Yes.
And good to know that there is someone working on things, and that, and I do feel for law enforcement that they don't have the manpower to be able to look into things, and that there is a time that the case just kind of stops. But I'm glad that, someone like yourself is out there interested enough to bring it up and continue. And like you said, if you can even find that one line and then that one thing that helps out a family, even though they may not ever find a body, they may not ever know who did it and so forth. But if there's one thing that helps them, that's a great thing.
Or even if it just triggers someone's memory.
Yeah.
And
helps them, and then eventually helps solve a cold case.
Solve a case. Yeah. Exactly.
Tremendous stuff today. I certainly appreciate your time. We do ask a couple of questions at the end, and while you may not be, quote unquote, an entertainer, you are an author, and it's an art. And so when you're not involved in arts and entertainment, what do you like to be entertained by?
I read Gene Kuntz novels.
Okay.
He's my favorite author. And I read a lot. I watch a lot of crime shows.
Okay.
Cold case files and forensic files. We love going to the plays. We like the Swam Park Community Theater, and we go to Washington Pavilion every chance we get. And we enjoy the performing arts. And
because you got a pretty talented daughter too.
This is true.
Yeah,
this is true. Yes.
For those that don't know the connection, Christine is Valerie Aaron's mother.
That's right.
Yeah, and so you've even attended a Vaughty show.
Oh, yes.
Yes. What did you think of that?
That was fun.
Yeah, what a great night.
That was fun. It was. It was so good to see such diverse talent up there.
Yeah, and the local people, we forget from time to time how talented a group we have around here.
I know.
It's fantastic. All right, then the final question is, any other hobbies?
Any other hobbies? I like to garden.
Gardener, okay.
Yes, I like scrapbooking. I like taking care of the grandkids. I like to walk. That's about it.
Yeah, that's plenty.
And I like eating pasta. Carbs.
Oh, you're lucky. I'm diabetic. I don't get pleasure. All right. Christine Weavick, thank you so much. Appreciate you spending time on the Dave Holly Hour.
Thank you so much, Dave.
And we'll be back to wrap up the show in just a moment.
Ladies, when it's time to give your nails some love, get that extra special treatment from Quality Nails on South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls. Manicures and pedicures that look great and make you feel fantastic. Zaya and Tony provide professional care for your hands and feet, whether you just want the basics or an extra special look with added flair. Oh, and guys, it's okay to treat yourself too. Quality Nails. Call for an appointment. 605-334-1463.
Dr. Perry Langston and Dr. Corey Tooney know excellence is in you. That's why they provide you with excellent care at XO Chiropractic, improving your overall health in spirit, body, mind, and will. Get results the natural way. Arrange a consultation. 605-332-9235 or exokairos.com. Excellent care for excellent people. XO Chiropractic, located at 4309 South Racket Drive in Sioux Falls.
People ask him where he got his top shelf voice. Dime store? Bargain. Once again, here's Dave Holly.
Thanks again to my great guests, Bubba Startz and Christine Weavick. As always, the biggest thank you goes to each of you for your listening, your downloading, your sharing, your following. And if you haven't so far, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So besides information about this show, you'll find out when Dave Holly Hour Trivia is going on at Chasers. Now, for all 221 episodes, go online at davehollyhour.com. By the way, use that search function on our website, look up what your favorite artists have been on before, and listen to any of their previous episodes. As the Sioux Falls Arts Council says, together we art. As Art South Dakota says, home is where the art is. As I say, put some art in your heart. Remember, my name is Dave Holly, and for me, every day is a holiday.
The Dave Holly Hour has been brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. If you would like to contribute to the continued success of this podcast, simply buy Dave a cup of coffee. Go to davehollyhour.com and click on the coffee cup icon. Don't forget to stay up to date on the show by following on Instagram and Facebook. The Dave Holly Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening.